It's no secret that I'm a huge fan of Transformers. It's my favorite franchise, aside from maybe Star Wars, Sonic, and the Cosmere, and I've been interacting with it since almost before I can remember. And Transformers has had a lot of great cartoons over the years. A lot. But not recently. The last truly great Transformers shows to air were Transformers Prime and Transformers Rescue Bots, which went off the air in 2014 and 2017 respectively. Both were followed up by subpar sequels that missed what made the originals so good, but that's a video all by itself. The point is, Transformers Earthspark is the sequel to Prime we deserve. You know how at the end of Prime, and spoilers, Megatron renounces the Decepticons and leaves to find a better path? Wow, that's so cool. I wonder what they're going to do with that in the sequel. The answer is nothing. They do nothing with it in the sequel. You know how Prime had a dark, mature tone that didn't talk down to its audience and was something kids and adults could enjoy? Well, now we're going to make jokes so stupid a 4-year-old wouldn't find them funny, and make Bumblebee, the leader of the Autobots, a total joke. Thanks, robots in disguise. Great job following up one of the best cartoons of all time. Thankfully, the shows after RID were never quite that stupid, though the Netflix shows sure came close. But none besides the Netflix stuff even tried to appeal to an older audience, and the less we say about the Netflix shows, the better. This was really disappointing to me as a fan who was going from a young teen to an adult during this time, and while I still loved Transformers, I was hungering for something a little more mature. Of course, there were the older shows, but I had seen them all several times at this point, and I wanted something even beyond what they had to offer. Fortunately, there were the IDW comics, which were totally willing to cater to an older, more PG-13 crowd. And those comics were the only thing in the franchise I really consumed for a number of years there, until this show was announced, and it piqued my interest. At first, I didn't have high hopes. I mean, Nickelodeon? They haven't really been doing so hot for like the past 12 years, so why would they do something adequate, let alone something good? Then the first pictures and a short synopsis were released, and my heart sank even further. The animation style and character designs look super weird and off-putting to me, and I was super annoyed at the show's description, which reads, "This newest rendition of everyone's favorite gigantic cartoon robots will follow the story of a new species of Cybertronians that are trying to figure out where they fit in with the rest of the Autobots, Decepticons, and humans out there. A new species of Transformers? Don't they understand that Autobots and Decepticons aren't different species? Don't they even know enough to get that right? Grrr! But I was wrong. The art style that I thought looked so weird in stills looks really good now that I've had time to get used to it, and it looks especially great in motion. And maybe I had set my expectations a little too low. I mean, that is a little hard since it is Nickelodeon, but the Terrans, this new species, are literally another species. They were created by the Firestone, Emberstone, whatever, I don't feel like looking it up. My point is, Transformers Earthspark is a fantastic show. The art style was in part developed by IDW Transformers comics legend Nick Roche, famous in the fandom for his work on the Wreckers trilogy. Seriously good books that I recommend you check out. Good old Nick worked as a character designer on the series, and man did he do a good job. Nick, working for Nickelodeon. Really, I should have known it was him. Those Terran designs just scream sins of the Wreckers. Earthspark is also really creative with its unique reinterpretation of Transformers lore. In this universe, the Transformers came to Earth in 1984, the year the original toy line launched, and brought their war with them. The Autobots teamed up with the human military organization Ghost to fight the Decepticons, and Optimus destroyed their space bridge, the only way off of Earth. This drastic action leads Megatron to reconsider his actions, and he actually switches sides, swearing loyalty to Optimus and the Autobots. This is a super interesting twist, and Megatron as an Autobot is actually one of my favorite characters and concepts in all of Transformers, but we'll talk about that in a minute. After Megatron joins Optimus, the war begins to wind down. Now, the show hasn't gone into too much detail on this time period yet, but we know that there are still some pretty important battles after Megatron switches sides, and this is when Dorothy Dot Molto, the mom of Robbie and Mo, two of the main characters, worked with and developed a friendship with Megatron. She worked for Ghost previously, and that's how they met. Bumblebee also went into hiding during this time, and by the time the show starts, it seems like most of the Decepticons are either in hiding or have been rounded up by Ghost and the Autobots. The Autobots are also common knowledge during this time, and have a variety of merchandise and comics as well as other media based around them. I mean, Robbie and Mo clearly know what Transformers are, and their dad Alex even has a whole collection of Bumblebee merch. as he stated Bumblebee is his favorite, which leads to some truly adorable interactions with the yellow bot when he becomes the Terran's mentor. Bumblebee has actually been in hiding all this time since the war, presumably at Optimus's request. We don't know why, but it seems that Optimus doesn't fully trust his ghost allies, despite what he tells Megatron. It does seem like the show is setting up some conflict with Ghost, seeing as Megatron doesn't like the way they treat Decepticons like caged animals, regardless of what crimes they have or haven't committed, or how he thinks they treat Autobots just like assets to be expended. Pretty interesting stuff. I do hope we get more information on what happened to the Cybertronians who were left on Cybertron, or were on other planets. Are there even Cybertronians on other planets? I mean, there's a lot of interesting questions here, but I think it's pretty guaranteed that we will get those answers. They're also delving into the Primes, what with it being Quintus Prime who used, again, I think it's the Ember Stone, to create life across the universe. I wonder if we'll see the Quintessons in this show. We did see their Prime's symbol in the cave, so it's possible, and other lore does confirm that Quintus Prime created the Quintessons. But speaking of Primes and Cybertron and all that, I really love how they've handled the classic characters in this show. It's been nice to see so much of Elita 1 in recent year, what with the IDW comics, and now in Earthspark. I also like how they portrayed RC as an eccentric mentor with a sibling-like relationship with Bumblebee. Speaking of family relationships, it was a real treat to see Wheeljack again. I loved his southern accent, and how he was kind of out of touch with others' emotions, but he still has a kind heart, and he's willing to take on a father-like role to Twitch, one of the Terrans. I'm really excited to see what other characters appear in this show. Seeing Skywarp and Sunstorm was fun, and I like the decision to make them female. I've been very happy with the recent efforts on Hasbro's part to make the franchise feel more inclusive. I'm also super excited to see that they're setting up Starscream as one of the main villains. With Megatron being a good guy now, it just makes sense. And speaking of Megs, he has been handled fantastically in this show. It's nice to see that super interesting plot thread from the end of Prime being followed up on here. And it's one of the things that really makes the show feel like a spiritual successor to that series. Of course, this show is also taking massive cues from the IDW comics, which were the first to really explore what Megatron being an Autobot would realistically look like. Those comics are the reason why I love Good Megs so much. But while both Earthspark and IDW's versions of Megatrons eventually became good guys, there are still some pretty big differences between the two. I'm not going to go into that here, because that topic really deserves its own video, but suffice to say it's been fantastic having this version of the character break out of the relatively niche realm of comics and into the mainstream. Switching tracks, I want to talk about the main characters, Twitch, Thrash, Mo, Robbie, and their parents Dorothy and Alex, as well as Twitch and Thrash's mentor, Bumblebee. The Terrans are great. I love their enthusiastic energy and willingness to learn, as well as how they are still basically kids, so they can get bored quickly and are also very inexperienced. They clearly have a lot to learn about the world and their place in it, and that's where the Maltos come in. The kids, Robbie and Mo, they're siblings from another species, if you will, and they do consider themselves siblings, which is just about the most wholesome thing I've ever seen. They call each other brother and sister and call the parents mom and dad, and while they don't call him Uncle Bumblebee, they might as well. It's so cute and happy and such a beautiful example of friendship and family, and just how you choose who to let into that dynamic. I just love it so much. 10 out of 10. Another thing I'm looking forward to learning about is the dad, Dr. Alex's connection to the series' main villain, Mandroid. As villains go, he works pretty well. I like how he views himself as Earth's true hero and the Cybertronians as the enemy. It's not the most unique setup ever, but it's different enough that it makes for an interesting watch. And it does seem like they're setting up some history between Mandroid and Alex Malto, so I'm interested to see where that goes. Of course, I'm much more excited to see the other Transformers, but I like how he is a genuine threat to the good guys and bad guys alike. His spider drones are also pretty cool. I think I'll like him more once we learn more about him and his connection to the family. I also like the parallel he has with Dorothy. They both lost a limb at the hands of Cybertronians, they were both put in danger by the Cybertronians' war, and they both chose to take action to save the world they call home. It's just that Dorothy chose to work with the Autobots, and Mandroid chose to work against them for his own selfish, self-deluded purposes. I like the representation they're giving to folks with a disability, and I hope we get to see more of how the loss affects their daily lives. And finally, I wanted to talk about just how awesome the show's fight scenes have been. The fight in episode 9 was especially jaw-dropping. We've seen intense action scenes in Transformers before, especially in the movies, but I don't think I've ever cared as much about the characters in those scenes as I did during this one, with the exception of Prime and maybe Bumblebee. It was perfect. The animation was amazing. I loved how we followed the Maltos family through the fighting fighting and destruction, it gives you a fantastic sense of the scale of these creatures from another world, and why us humans would be terrified of them, even the good guys. I think that's the true difference here. We've had good, even great fight scenes in Transformers before. Some scenes from animated come to mind, as well as in Prime, and of course there are countless examples in the comics, but the animation in Earthspark is just so good, and the fighting was so well choreographed, and unlike in the movies, we actually care about these characters. Yeah, I'm going to call it, this is my favorite Transformers fight scene ever put to screen. There's a video idea. Top 10 Transformers fight scenes. Let me know if you want to see that in the comments below. Well, there you have it. My thoughts on Transformers Earthspark. All in all, a fantastic show so far, and I think it's only going to get better. Thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, maybe consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. And be sure to check out my channel for more Transformers content, as well as videos on other comics and cartoons that us nerds love. And if you really enjoy what I do here, then please consider supporting me on Patreon for access to my videos early and exclusive content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.